Hello, welcome. So welcome to Stretch and Relax or yoga. This could be for either class. So what I would like to focus on in this video is something I call hips all around. Basically, let's get into the hips and stretch them all around. So when you come to the hips, there's lots of areas, and so you can easily do a 20 to 30 minute sequence. And so this will give me a chance to show a lot of variations. Okay, so you can do the whole thing with me, or you can pick and choose as you go. So things I have today. What do I have? So lots of padding is always helpful. At some point, a nice big pillow or a lot of blankets will be used for seated posture, for a pose where I want you to lift your hips up so the hips get shifted forward. And so I have my big thick pillow. It's also really helpful to have a blanket or 2 or 3 or 4, because we're going to be on our knees, and I want to go into at least one lunge where the back knee will be down. And so padding under the knees, whether it's pillows or blankets, is really, really helpful. The scarf is going to be used in 2 stretches. Okay, so your strap, what do you have around the house that can work for you as a strap? And it just kind of popped in my head today as I was thinking about the lunge that I really wanted to have something like yoga blocks, which I have not purchased yet. Maybe you have some. That would be awesome. But look it, you don't have to buy them. I tend to collect pretty boxes, so my boxes are pretty, but shoe boxes around the house. I'm going to use these props when I teach my lunge, and I'm going to bring them in like they're yoga blocks so it can lift me up a little bit on each side. So I'm just going to slide those over when that pose, that stretch comes along. Okay, so I'm going to put those over there out of the way for now. Awesome. So the way you're going to start is with your feet in butterfly. So here we go. You ready? So when we're going into hips all around, there's definitely other muscles that will come into the mix. Maybe a little inner thigh, a little quadricep, but definitely the lower back. So movement of your lower back and your spine is so connected to the hips. And also hip stretching can help if you have lower back pain or tightness. So move through everything I offer you with care and with self-awareness as you go, please. So, hi. Here we go. My name is Kristen, by the way. Just going to reintroduce myself again if you've already heard that. So I have my feet together in this butterfly, and I look down. This butterfly is with the feet further out, so I have a diamond between my legs. Okay, so that's how you're going to set up at first. And later on, I promise we'll do the feet closer version, but right now we're doing this, and we're going to use it to move our spine. If you've practiced my first introduction video, you've definitely done this move with me already. So I'm using my hands, and I'm grabbing my ankles, shins, and I'm using that, and I want to pull the body through and up very tall. Inhale and exhale, and you tuck. You pull the core muscles back and you tuck into it. So we're going to keep moving through this 3 or 4 times. I'm going to turn sideways a moment so you can see that movement, drawing yourself forward and then tucking, and you see the connection of your lower back to the hips. Well, the hips need to tuck, and then they tilt forward and lift you up. So keep moving through that. Practice an inhale as you lift up and an exhale as you curl back. So when I'm teaching you these variations today, these stretches and poses, I will turn my body when needed, forward and back. You don't have to turn your body if you don't want. You could just be setting up in one position, whatever works for you. So inhale, draw forward and up. So for the hips all around, I actually have a couple ideas. I want to make another video. It'll kind of take it to the next level because there's things I will leave out of this one that I want to add into the next one. So moving the spine, waking it up, and with this butterfly. So now I'm going to pull the body tall, and with this butterfly, see how it feels to extend and shift forward. Again, this is a butterfly with maybe the feet further forward. All right, so we're going to Move back into what's called the windshield wipers now, just still a little movement to wake up. So you take your feet and you set them about hip-width apart, and your hands go back. Let me turn sideways for a moment. Your hands can turn any direction you want. And you just moving into the legs, moving into the legs and the lower body. So I'm going to go inhaling up and exhaling across. And continue with that a few times. Inhale and exhale. So you might notice this one, how it warms up through the lower back with a twist, but also a little movement of the hips and the legs. And when my knees go to one side, notice I turn my head the other direction. Kind of just takes this movement all the way up your spine. And so I'm just finishing off one more. And centering out. Cool. So what I want to do pretty quick is move into the figure four. I think that is the most useful hip stretch. So when stretching the hips, we have a few areas. One is out here in this outer thigh, up into the glutes, right up in here, so that hip area. Another area that you want to remember that is equally or even more important is the hip flexor. So at first we're not doing that. We will try to get into that also. So right in there. All right, so for the figure four, if you watched my first introduction video, we've already done this one. I just want to take our time with it and do it a little longer. So I have the scarf. It's going to help. So for a moment, we're going to not use the scarf and check out the figure four without. So you have that option. So I'm going to do seated and lift it up and cross your right leg over, or whatever leg you chose. And you might just feel this for a moment. You might decide, hey, I like that. I'm going to do that today. I'm just doing a short variation on this because I want to lay down and do the figure four there. Okay, so releasing that, feeling the other side, noticing, lifting up. So the hands behind me, I use them to lift my body up tall into this seated figure four. And I'll definitely teach this one more. I love the seated figure four. But in the beginning, I wanted to use the scarf because it gives the figure four more space. So on each side, I'm going to take our time. We're going to move into it and then take our time with it, breathe, and I'll give you some suggestions along the way. So let me move some things aside here. And you're going to cross one leg over and hook your scarf around the foot. Okay. Let me set that there. And roll to our back. So what's cool about having the scarf is that you have space to relax your shoulders down. Okay, you can also hold higher, but can you get those shoulders connecting down to the ground? So just, start to work with it, but I will give ideas and suggestions here. So your scarf is hooked onto that foot up in the air. That foot could stay straighter, but you could also play with bending that leg. Take a deep breath here. So what I want to suggest in this figure four is a little bit of movement. So the first movement is simply pressing that figure four away from you, pressing it away, and then drawing it towards your body. So really relax into that, breathe into that movement, pressing away and drawing it towards you. So you're gently asking that hip to release, to let go. It would be the outer thigh of the leg, and it kind of guides up into the outer hip. And probably you're going to notice your glutes, your butt muscle, stretching out a little bit. So the other movement is a circle. So now I take it and I guide it into a slow circle, or a really small one if you wish, in one direction. Deep breath as you go. And now slowly I'm going to guide that the other way. And again, another deep breath. I will remind you of that beautiful deep breathing, but please just keep reminding yourself to bring that in. Your body loves it. And then finally, you just take that figure four, and if you wish, you just take that strap, those scarves, and you draw it close to your body and breathe into that. So I'm going to release that, take the figure four leg out, and practice rolling up with the strap on my foot. So I use that to help me roll up, which is a cool move for the body to practice. And then we switch to the other leg. So I'm going to get the scarf on the second foot, crossing it over. I think I'll stay with my body facing this direction. And you can see it from both variations. And begin to play with it. Now you got the ideas. Focus on your breath. So what's really cool sometimes about stretching in any part of your body is it really draws your mind into the muscles that you're stretching. Your body demands that attention. It says, hey, feel me right now. Notice what you're feeling. And that in that way, it relaxes your mind away from the other busy thoughts of your day. The other. All right, so now I'm going to start to move that around a little bit. Okay, so I'm pressing that figure four away from me. See how that feels? Lower back connection when you do that. And then I draw it in and I feel my lower back press down. So lower back to hip connection. Inhale away. Exhale, draw it in. One more time like that. Inhale away. Exhale, draw it in. And then what about that little circular motion? So now keep in mind, if I'm suggesting something that just you don't need at that moment, you're like, no, I just want to hold it in one spot right now, Kristen, that is just fine. Okay? You can use my suggestions if they make sense to you. Your body is going to tell you better what to do than I am. I'm just here to guide. So circling that around both directions if you haven't done that yet, taking a deep breath as you go. And then finally I just hold it a little longer. I see how it feels to draw it in close. Take another deep breath or two. So with this one really touching into that outer line of your leg, connecting up into the hip and into the glute. So your figure four. So I'm going to take the foot out and use this strap to roll my way up to seated. Good. And then setting that aside. So I'm going to come to butterfly just briefly, just feel it a moment because we were there in the beginning, and maybe now with that figure four, following that figure four, you're like, oh, that feels a little bit better. So. Okay, but the next big one I want to do is moving into hands and knees, and then that will guide into lunges. So we want to set up. We want to make sure the knees are happy. I'm going to turn sideways for a minute because that's the way you're going to see the spine best. So for my knees, I'm going to show that you can really pad it up. See, I made that really thick, and I get my knees all happy on that. Okay? And then my hands come forward into a tabletop. Looking down at my fingers, I spread the fingers wide. So again, connecting into the spine to support the hips. So loosening up your spine by releasing it down. Inhale. And then exhale, tuck and curl from lower back, mid, all the way to upper. So keep moving into your spine a few times. Breathing, inhale, exhale, curl. Close your eyes, notice what you feel. Allow your breath to slow down and take care of you. your spine movement, you're gonna fall back into child's pose. I know this is a little thick for me, so I'm gonna unfold that and let my hips, my toes point, and your hips fall back. Your arms might reach, or they could be in close. And you see how child's pose feels. And you just rest there for 2 or 3 breaths. You guys staying there, I'm gonna turn my body for the next part. So walking your hands back, we're going to move into the low lunge. So you're going to learn what you need in your lunge today. Do you need the padded knee? Because the back knee is going to be down. I'm going to reach over and make sure that I use my blocks today, so my shoe boxes, my beautiful boxes, and set them on each side. Okay? So you might learn that you don't need the extra prop of the boxes, but I wanted to show you that you can use something around your house. So what I'm going to do is have you bring your right leg through into a low lunge. And you make sure, I'm going to scooch back a little bit, you make sure that you brought your foot far enough forward. So you have this long diagonal back here. And you're super opening up this area. And then you have a straight line, knee to heel, up front. Good. All right. Ooh, do you need your boxes? Do you want some boxes or anything higher to help this stretch be more comfortable? Okay. So that's where they come in so useful. Okay, so you're not curling into that lunge, that you can be more lifted. Shoot, you could have nice high stools. You could be way up here. You know, it's all good. So I want to do some movement now. So here we are, forward. And then you draw back, and you can lift these toes, and it's going to stretch into your hamstring. So it's an inhale forward, and an exhale back. One more time, inhale, and exhale. Awesome. So I come forward into the lunge, and now I want to lift up and get more into this hip flexor. So now I can touch into the awesome hip flexor. So I got to tell you, when you want to get into that area, the lunges are the best. So I'm tempting you to try them out today. So tuck your tailbone, lift tall, and that's one step. So that starts to reach some of the hip muscles, but it doesn't get the deepest ones. Here's how you get really deep into your hip flexor. You reach your arms up to the sky. Take a deep breath here. Let's see. You take this hand over here, I think that would be your right hand, to your left wrist, and you practice this little side bend. Reach your pinky long, reach your fingers long, all the way down that outer line of your body, down into that hip area. Deep breath. And lift up. Let the arms come down. We'll stay here a moment longer. You just want to be careful that you're not falling into this one, that you're not collapsing into it, because you'll feel the stretch that way, but it's not as good for the body. You want to instead practice more lifted, open hip area. Tuck through the tailbone, like so. Awesome. So now we're going to take that back and check out the other leg. And over the many years of teaching Stretch and Relax, I did learn that often people don't enjoy this lunge, and many people do also. Okay, so if you ever feel like you want to leave this one out, there's many other hip stretches, but this one is so good. So now I've made sure that I have the long diagonal, straight line here, using your lift if you wish. Also noting that the floor is fine if that is something you practiced and feels good to you. So now the movement, inhale here and exhale back. Notice that, just kind of warming up the hips with that movement for one, but the different areas that it stretches as you shift. It's not always for me to tell you what to feel. Yeah, I can give you like, hey, this is the hip flexor, this is that and that, but really it is your body and you need to kind of think into it. What do you feel at this moment? How does this stretch me? So coming forward into your low lunge, I'm going to encourage you to lift up. This is where that knee padding is so helpful. Often my knee feels a little sensitive, but now that I've extra padded it up, it actually is feeling quite nice at this moment. So I'm going to do a little drawing in of the core, lifted body. Good. Let the hands hang. Let's do a graceful lift to the sky. Inhale, up. Exhale, relax there. If you're mirroring me, your left hand will take your right wrist, and you do a little side bend. Do you notice that side bend, that reach, how it can deepen into the hip flexor? Your hip flexor area can actually get tight without you realizing it if you're simply sitting too long. So if you guys are sitting at the computer too long, which might be the case right now, right? That poor hip flexor is getting tight and you don't even realize it. And just throw your body off a little bit. So that one is so, so important. All right, so we got that. Nice. I'm going to ease that leg back, move our blocks aside. We're all done with those for now. Useful another day if you want to. And take a seat. Okay, so I want to go back into butterfly, but this time I really want our body to be lifted. So I'm going to grab the pillow, and you can even grab a blanket, but anyway, the idea is to get your hips high. So I'm going to turn sideways to show what I mean. So yeah, I'm just going to example how high you can go. I'm going to layer up the blanket on top of that. So when I sit up and into the feet together butterfly, and the feet can be in closer, it allows you to tip your body more forward. If I didn't have that, then the spine tends to go like that. And I want you to be lifted and the lower back forward, okay? So the pillow, the thick pillow is what I find is most useful. I tuck that under my hips, I bring the feet together closer in this time, and then use that to shift my body forward into this butterfly. So when the feet are closer to your body, you get a little inner thigh. I'm going to be quiet for a moment. I've been talking a lot. Sometimes I've noticed, especially if someone is big into sports and athletics, this butterfly position can be too tight and simply be like that. You can definitely keep working on it with the lift of the pillow and stretching it, but sometimes it's not a place to relax. I do understand that. Patience and release it when you need. Try to release anything that gives you frustration or stretch, because your body cannot relax if you're feeling that frustration. It doesn't want that. I'm going to teach you an awesome one, continuing into the legs and the hips. So we're going to reach out and grab our scarf. Okay, grab our strap of some sort. And I want to lay on our back and do leg extension. So what you're going to do is turn sideways, and I'm going to pick one leg closest to you. Let me turn this way. And hook the strap onto that leg. And lay on down. And I start to lift this leg up. Now this is hamstring stretch, but we're focusing on the inner thigh and the outer hip area. Okay, so you're going to feel hamstring at first, yes. Your other leg could be bent on the ground. You might keep it that way the whole time. It could also be extended long. Okay, that could work too. I'm going to start off with my bend. So now grabbing the two straps in the same hand as the leg that's up, I'm going to bend my knee a little bit at first. I'm going to open that leg out into the inner thigh, keeping the eyesight straight up The other leg could be bent or extended long. And just stay with that for 2 or 3 breaths. You see how my elbow kicks out here and it catches it before it goes too deep. The other hip, you can't see this one right now, but you're trying your best to keep that hip rounded down, pressed into the ground. And then I lift up. Good. This other one, it works better if the other leg is straight. We're going to bring the leg across our body a little bit so we can touch into this outer hip area. This is more of the hip stretch that I wanted to get you to find. And you take the straps into your opposite hand and you guide it across your body. Now, it doesn't have to be a twist right now. Twists are cool. I love doing twists with this one, but I'm actually just taking it across a little bit so I feel this line. Eyesight up. Hold that for a moment. Stay with it. Deep breath. My knee bends a little bit because sometimes this one is tight for me. And so this one's so helpful. But I bend the knee to come out of the deep intensity. You might need that. You might like a straighter leg if it's not as intense. It's this IT band area right out here. Sometimes certain people, some of us have issues with that tightness right in there. You'll know if it's you. And then bring it back to the top. Awesome. Let's check out the other leg. I'm just going to bring it up and do the little switcheroo. Eyesight is up. I'm just turning so I can talk to you. And I bend the knee a little bit and open it out into the inner thigh. Now notice this leg. Now you can see it. I'm doing my best to keep this hip down really solid, instead of letting it follow. Good, eyesight is up. So with these videos that I'm offering you, I would love it if you watch them at least 2, maybe 3 times. So by the 2nd or 3rd time, you got the idea of everything. And then you're making sure you're doing it in a way that feels right for you. Deep breath here. Bent on this one also. And then I guide it back to the top. I straighten the leg for the next one. It's more helpful. It could work with bent knee. Yeah, that works. It does. It does, it does. Or straight. And then I bring it across. And you see how this one can be a major twist? If you're tempted, you go for it. I'm kind of just going for the outer thigh by taking it a little less far. Can you say that, less far? I think so. Deep breath here. And then bring it back to the top, bend the knees, use that scarf to roll your way up to seated. Awesome. Let's see where I'm going to go next. We got some good hip areas, some good spaces in the legs. Anyway, okay. Seated bound angle with inner thigh. Yes. Okay, so now I'm going to use the pillow again to prop my hips up. Maybe you don't need that. Okay, maybe you discovered, okay, that's not something I need. But, so what does your cross-legged position feel like? If anyone is unhappy, do butterfly instead at this time. Cross-legged. So first I go for my easy cross. This is the one that always happens when someone says cross-legged. I go with this leg in front. Okay? And so we're going to end up playing with both sides. One is harder for me. I don't know. What do you think? I want you to discover that. Okay, again, if cross-legged is not a happy place, if this looks like something that you're not ready for, that's just impossible with your legs, butterfly right now and just stretch that out. So I have one leg in cross in front. Lift top, and I want to see how it feels to bring the body forward over that leg cross. Not too bad. I do feel a wonderful stretch down this outer hip. That is what I feel, and I hold this for a breath. And so yeah, if you're in another position, butterfly or such, you would just be reaching forward with the butterfly, maybe noticing how the one side feels. So I'm going to bring that up. So what I wanted to introduce is the idea of switching and balancing your body. So now what do you feel if you put the other leg in front? Me, it's always kind of like a scary difference, like, ooh, I don't want to do that, but I've been practicing it more. And you stretch long over your second side. Some of you might be really balanced in this way and not have any issues going on. Still really good for you to practice. Balance of the leg. And so we're almost there. I wanted to do the last stretch, which actually comes into the inner thigh. So I'll again show how I'm using the pillow and I'm doing butterfly here. So with my really lifted hips, so blankets, pillows, yes, I'm going to emphasize that. I want to lift them up. I'm going to suggest that maybe you try out the V-stretch, okay? And I understand if the V-stretch is hard for you, it's been hard for me, so lately I'm trying to practice it a little more. I let go of that over the break, now I'm going to do it again. So stretching the inner thigh, but with a tall, lifted body. Okay, so try not to curl your back and reach as far as you can. I would love you to think tall, maybe hands back, hips lifted, and stretching forward. So you got the open hips and the inner thigh stretch. A few of you this might be something that you have done all your life and it's easier for you. Feel free to go into your deeper V-stretch. Just think long, extended spine. Nice. We'll stay here just for a little longer. Nice. And then make your way up. Sitting comfortably for one more moment with me. Thank you for joining me for Hips All Around. I definitely have another variation on this with some similar stuff and then some different things added in, because hips have so many options when you come to stretching. So thank you so much. I'll see you next time.